Hey, I'm Gracie, and I have a crazy story to tell you. But before I do, please like and subscribe to GracieStories. I'm a 25-year-old female, and my husband, who's 31, said he is going to leave me if I don't admit to cheating on him. This is such a wild situation. I don't even know how to explain it without sounding crazy. My husband and I have been married for 5 years. No kids. There are several issues in the relationship, but they are too in-depth to get into in this post. My husband has always exhibited some degree of paranoia, but not just about cheating. However, it has been related to fear of paranoia about cheating on multiple occasions. The other night, my husband got drunk and started telling me that the only possible way to fix our relationship is if I admit what I've done. He said he knows something is going on, and if I don't tell him what it is, he is going to leave me. He said he's let me convince him in the past, but that he won't be convinced this time that nothing has happened. It's very important for me to note here that I have not cheated or kept anything from him. I said this to him multiple times. Numerous times when I said that, he would smirk, like an in-your-face moment, and say he can see it and that there's no point in hiding it. We had this back and forth for about an hour, and he kept telling me how good I am at this, meaning lying and convincing him. He kept saying things like, just admit it, and we have no chance of being okay if you don't tell me. I told him I had no idea what to do, and that I felt backed into a corner since he was basically telling me I had to lie to him and tell him I did something I didn't, or else he would leave me. It was super scary. I said I didn't know what to do. He said, yes, you do. And I said he was completely wrong, and that I haven't done anything or hid anything or whatever else he thought. He admitted that he had no proof, but he said it is the truth that I did something, and that if he has ever been right about anything to do with anybody in any type of relationship he's ever had with another person, then he's right about this. He also told me that I'm breaking his heart, and if I don't admit it, it's my fault that he'll never be able to trust anyone again. I'm completely freaked out and devastated. I can't convince him, even though I can't account for everywhere I've been. I have a very tight schedule that involved me being around other people who could vouch for where I've been and when. Even if I could, I feel like the way he was talking to me and the hour-long accusations might have changed the way I feel about him. The next day, I told him that even if he does manage to be convinced, I don't know if I'll get over that conversation, and how he so clearly thinks and feels about me. He still doesn't believe me, but said he'd try to, though that's what he's done in the past, though it's never been quite this bad. And given that it came up again, I'm fairly certain even if he tries to believe me, it will happen again eventually. He's hardly spoken to me since. I don't feel okay at all. I need advice about how to proceed. Should I keep trying to talk to him? Is there a way for me to get over how badly I feel towards him now? I feel so crazy. My thoughts on this, that it's pretty clear that the jerk in this situation is your husband. I mean, come on. Accusing someone of cheating without any evidence and trying to manipulate them into admitting something they didn't do is a classic example of being a total jerk. Seriously, he needs to chill, trust his partner, and work on his insecurities instead of pushing them onto her. If this behavior continues, you might want to consider seeking some professional help for both of you. But don't let his baseless accusations and emotional manipulation mess with your sanity. You're not the crazy one in this situation. He is. Let's move on to our next story. Feel bad for hating my dead sister. I'm a 38-year-old female, and I got engaged to my now husband last June. My mother has always been detached and didn't show much interest in my engagement, which I was fine with. However, at my wedding, after my in-laws gave a touching speech, I braced myself for disappointment when my parents stepped up. My older sister Adelaide passed away in a car accident when I was 12, a tragedy that left my mother, father, and me in mourning. My mother was hit the hardest, and our relationship deteriorated as she distanced herself from us, making every occasion, including my birthdays, about Adelaide. I tolerated this because I wanted to be considerate. But during the wedding, my mother hijacked the speech to talk about her grief over Adelaide, her missed opportunities, and her healing journey through yoga. She didn't mention me or my husband once, ending her speech with, "Now my Sarah gets to live the life Adelaide deserved but was taken too soon." I was seething, but kept my composure. Post-wedding, I avoided my mother until she confronted me at my home, to which I responded with laughter and a demand for an apology. She refused, so I closed the door on her. Now my family is up in arms, but my husband's family stands by me. Am I the jerk? The poster's edit. My mother's speech at the wedding was entirely inappropriate, and I expected her to understand why I was upset. However, she showed up at my place, and when I confronted her about it, she still didn't see the issue. Hence, I asked for an apology, which she didn't give, leading me to shut the door on the conversation. Here's my take on what happened. Let's get real here. Your wedding day is supposed to be about you and your partner, period. It's okay to miss someone and wish they were there, but turning the whole speech into a eulogy? That's a no-go. It's like, can we focus on the happy couple for just one day? Please. So here's my advice. It's high time for some straight talk with your mom. Maybe she didn't realize how much her actions hurt you, or maybe she's got her own stuff she's dealing with. But that doesn't make it okay. It's about respect, and your wedding day deserved to be respected. It's tough when family gets involved and everyone has an opinion, but stick to your guns. You've got every right to feel upset about this. Maybe try to have a calm sit down with your mom when things have cooled off a bit. But remember, you're not wrong for wanting your special day to actually be special. Next up, we've got an even crazier story. Am I a jerk for refusing to adhere to my Esil's Christmas gift list? For Christmas, my 30-year-old husband and I are hosting our parents. My brother Chris, 34, his wife Amy, 33, their 2 young sons, my 27-year-old sister Lucia, and her boyfriend Alex, 30. Let's get to the heart of the matter. Amy is the queen of complaints when it comes to gifts. Every Christmas, it's the same routine. She greets each present with a grimace and a snide comment. Take last year, for instance. We gave Amy and Chris a high-end coffee maker, the same model that Chris couldn't stop admiring at our place. Amy's reaction? Not even a hint of gratitude. Just a sarcastic, "Oh well, this isn't really for me, is it?" followed by a dramatic display of annoyance for not getting her own gift. Recently, Amy sent an all-inclusive family email with a Christmas list for herself and the kids. It was essentially a how-to guide for bankrupting Santa, full of links to costly perfumes, luxurious clothing, and designer handbags. It was too much. My parents were upset but stayed quiet. I, on the other hand, couldn't contain my fury at her audacity. In response, I firmly told Amy I would not be fulfilling her extravagant wish list. If she's got her heart set on a designer wallet, she can get in touch with my saleswoman herself. And if she doesn't like her gifts, she's free to leave them at my doorstep. Chris got heated, insisting Amy was just trying to be helpful with her suggestions. But I couldn't disagree more. In my eyes, she's trying to manipulate her way into high-ticket items she'd never buy herself. All in the name of Christmas cheer, which is downright childish. While my parents think I should have kept quiet, Lucia backs me up, saying there's no way she's spending a fortune on Amy's list either. So, am I the jerk for not playing along? The post made an edit. For those wondering, yes, Amy does drink coffee and uses the coffee maker. And no, Amy and Chris don't reciprocate with gifts of equivalent value. Chris handles their Christmas shopping, and in our family, adult gifts are modest. We lavish the kids but give each other simple, thoughtful items, nothing that would cost an arm and a leg. Advice on the situation. In this festive fiasco, Amy's high-flying expectations are casting a shadow over the Christmas spirit. Her list is more suited to a Hollywood diva than a family gathering. Her approach is the antithesis of the season's giving nature. And your reaction, though harsh, is a stand against an escalating culture of entitlement. It's clear that Amy's list is out of bounds, and your refusal to indulge it is not unjustified. However, could the execution have been more tactful? Absolutely. A calm, private conversation may have sufficed rather than a public showdown. In the end, it's about balance. Amy needs to adjust her expectations, and you could consider a more measured response. Moving forward, setting clear family guidelines on gift giving could prevent future holiday heartache and keep the focus on what truly matters. Let's move on to our next story that I personally cringed when I read it. Am I a jerk? Because my fiancé got mad after I told him to stop tickling me during contractions. So here's the situation. I'm having contractions, and my fiancé thinks it's the perfect time for tickle torture on my feet. I tell him to knock it off, but he goes for round 2. Naturally, I get upset. He retorts that he's just joking and trying to help me go into labor, as if tickling has any medical basis for inducing labor. I ask him how he can find humor in my pain, which is obviously not a laughing matter. His response? A dismissive whatever and a dramatic exit from the room. Did I overreact? Here's my advice on the situation. You are in the throes of labor, the climax of pregnancy where every sensation is amplified, and the last thing you need is to be tickled. It's not just about the physical discomfort. It's about being heard and respected, especially in a vulnerable state. Your fiancé's actions were insensitive, and his reaction to your plea was dismissive, which is not supportive behavior. When one partner tells the other to stop something, especially in a high-stress situation like labor, it's crucial to listen and act accordingly. His attempt to lighten the mood was ill-timed and ill-received. His subsequent anger and storming out only added fuel to the fire of discomfort and stress you were already experiencing. You did not overreact. Your request was simple, and your fiancé's behavior was not appropriate for the situation. I still feel for this girl so much, and I also feel for the person in our next story. Am I a jerk for not wanting my brother to give his child the same name as me? I'm a 17-year-old female, and let's say my name is Rarity, which is unique, like my actual name. My half-brother, who is 30 years old, is named Curtis. He's married to Kendall, also 30 years old. Interestingly, Kendall has my last name now because when they got married, Curtis took her last name, which worked out fine since his old last name had some bad memories attached to it, and we're close. Now Kendall is about to have a baby girl, and they've decided to name her Rarity too. Not just that, they're also giving her my middle name. They think if there's any confusion, they'll just tack on baby to differentiate. Honestly, I find this super awkward and I'm not okay with it. My folks think it's endearing, but I feel like my identity is being hijacked. I tried to tell them how I feel, but it seems to fall on deaf ears. And now I'm the bad guy for being unsupportive. The posters edit. When I asked them why, they said they just love the name. Curtis mentioned he'd like his daughter to be like me, which is flattering, but they insist it's not about honoring me or anything. My advice on the situation. This is a tough spot. Your name is a big part of who you are, and it's totally fair to feel weird if someone close to you wants to use it too, especially for their kid. It can make you feel like you're losing a part of what makes you special. Here's what I think. It's important to have a heart-to-heart with your brother. Let him know that this is messing with your head. You're not trying to cause drama. You just love your name and want to keep it to yourself. Maybe suggest they could find another name that's just as pretty or cool. The bottom line is, it's not wrong to want to be the only Rarity in the family. It's also not wrong for them to find another name that they love just as much for their little one. There are tons of names out there. Go find one that doesn't step on your toes. Let's move on to a weird story. Am I a jerk? Wealthy friend made me split the bill. I, 36, female, have a friend, Rob, 48 male, who is quite wealthy and successful. He's known for dating and generously spending on his partners, fine dining, gifts, and even cash. It's his lifestyle choice, and I've never judged him for it. Rob recently had a tough breakup that really shook him up, and I've been his rock, offering support through calls, texts, and emotional counsel. As a single mom with a full-time job, it wasn't easy, but I did my best to be there for him. After weeks of this, he invited me out for dinner as a thank you for all the support. We went to a fancy restaurant, and when the bill came, he declared we'd split it. I was taken aback, especially after he insisted on this dinner, and considering my financial situation as a single mom. I had even paid over $100 for a babysitter to make the dinner possible. Despite expressing my feelings, he wouldn't budge on splitting the bill. I paid my share and left, feeling upset and blindsided. He knows how stretching my budget for a night out is a significant expense for me. Am I a jerk for feeling let down by his actions? The posters edit. Thanks for the feedback, everyone. Just to clarify. 1. There's no romantic angle here. My feelings aren't about unrequited affection or any hope of us becoming an item. 2. I agree, no one owes me anything because they're wealthier. Yet, if roles were reversed, I couldn't imagine asking a friend in a tight spot financially to pay. All right, here's my take. When someone invites you out, especially after you've been their emotional lifeline, it's pretty common to assume they're covering the bill, especially if they're rolling in dough and you're counting pennies just to get by. And let's be real here. If Rob can rain cash on his dates, he can surely spring for a meal for a friend who's had his back during a meltdown. You have every right to feel slighted, no doubt about it. It's not about the money. It's about the principle and the appreciation, or in this case, the lack thereof. It feels like a slap in the face after you've been a shoulder to cry on. Before you confront him, maybe just simmer down a bit. Approach the conversation with a cool head. Tell him how you felt, and maybe remind him that friendship is also about support. Not just during the bad times, but in showing gratitude too. What do you think of the stories so far? If you want me to make more, let's try to get this video to 10 likes and comment below your thoughts thus far. I've just started my YouTube journey, and it's honestly so fun making these videos for you. If you enjoy them, then please consider subscribing to GracieStories to watch more. Now let's move on to our next story. Am I a jerk for allegedly ruining my stepsister's birthday? My stepsister just turned 10. Her father, who is married to my mother, had planned for her to have a girly day with her grandmother. 3 weeks prior, he insisted I take the day off work to join them, claiming it was my stepsister's wish. I am 17 years old and made it clear that I would not take the day off, nor would I attend. He commanded me not to argue and just comply, but I stood firm, explaining that he couldn't make me. My mother attempted to persuade me as well, saying my stepsister looks up to me and would appreciate my company. Despite sympathizing with her feeling lonely, I expressed my preference to not spend the whole day with them, as I had other plans. My mother dropped the subject after that. On the day of, while I was at work, my stepfather began bombarding me with calls and texts, demanding I leave work to fulfill the plans he made. I ignored the demands and turned off my phone. He even showed up at my workplace, causing such a scene that my boss had to remove him from the premises. I returned home late after visiting my grandmother, only to be confronted by my stepfather. He accused me of devastating his daughter by not showing up, as she had been led to believe I would be there. He declared that I had defied an order to call off work, and now I had ruined her birthday. I reminded him that I never consented to the plans. The situation remains strained, and my stepsister is evidently distressed. Am I a jerk? Here's my take on the situation. You're caught in a classic family tug of war. Your stepsister is a kid, so naturally, she's going to be upset when things don't go as she's been told they will. But here's the kicker. You're also a kid, and it's not your job to play stand-in parent or sibling. It sounds like your stepdad tried to force a family bond with a command rather than fostering a relationship, which is as effective as using a chainsaw for surgery, messy and not recommended. You communicated your plans clearly, and it's not fair to be expected to drop everything, especially when it involves work commitments. It's a tough spot when family dynamics clash with personal boundaries, but it's important to stick to your guns when you feel pressured into something you're not comfortable with. My advice? Don't let the guilt trip pack your bags. Stand your ground, but maybe have a heart-to-heart with your stepsister. She's caught in the middle of this adult drama, and a little understanding could go a long way. It's not about who's the biggest jerk here. It's about balancing compassion with self-respect. Am I a jerk for rejecting an invite to my friend's baby shower? My friend Mary is about to welcome her new baby in just 4 weeks. Our mutual friend Shelley stepped up to the plate and planned a brunch for this coming weekend, billing it as a casual baby shower gathering. Right from the get-go, she inquired about potential dates and venues we could hit up. I laid it out clear as day. I had a hard no for Saturday. My better half would be swamped with work, hence no babysitting. Plus, I was on deck for airport drop-off duty since my folks would be winging their way back home. Shelley gave me her word. Saturday was a no-go. Guess what? She picks a spot that's a stone's throw from her place, but for me, it's a solid 40-minute haul. If you do the math, that's pushing an hour-and-a-half round trip. I reminded her about my jam-packed Saturday, and that's when the guilt trip bombardment began. She insisted that as the lone mom in our squad, it was imperative I show up for Mary. Mind you, Shelley's no stranger to motherhood herself, with a 4-month-old of her own. She even had the audacity to suggest I should get my hubby to ditch work, or convince my family to postpone their flight. I stood my ground, no can do, and I'm genuinely sorry, but she was aware of my situation right from the start. Now she's pelting me with texts, even using her husband's phone, branding me as self-centered and accusing me of not supporting my fellow women. In my book, she's spewing utter nonsense. She was clued into my boundaries and now she's acting all shocked. Please, am I a jerk? Here's my 2 cents on the situation. Let's slice through the guilt trip and lay it all out. You, my friend, are juggling a lot. A working husband, international goodbyes, and a little one of your own. That's a full plate. Shelley, on the other hand, seems to have conveniently forgotten the plan. Wasn't the whole point of checking schedules to avoid this kind of mix-up? Now, onto Shelley's role in this melodrama. Sure, she's hosting, but does that give her the right to steamroll over everyone else's commitments? I don't think so. And let's talk about this expectation that you should just flip your life upside down for a brunch. Newsflash, real life doesn't pause for pastries and small talk, even if it's in honor of a baby. At the end of the day, you're not a jerk for having boundaries and sticking to them. It's time for Shelley to remember that being a hostess means accommodating your guests, not the other way around. You're supporting women by setting a prime example of respecting your own time and needs. If that's selfish, then we could all use a little more selfishness in our lives.